Yeah.
We are live. Brian is on.
You and Dave are two on the road across the street from Chip. Well, I'm just south, about a quarter mile.
Okay,
Right hand side.
same side?
Hmm?
Same side as Chip?
No, the opposite side.
All right.
Same side you're on.
I'm Ben Crow.
I'm, one, two, the third driveway past you, going south.
Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready. One second, let me get my video around here.
The decision's already been made. They're gonna vote
You won't be able to
this
see
for
Steve
the
because we're trying to make the monitor available to the public. There we go. Oh, unmute.
Can you allow me to share share my screen there, Laurel?
Okay, I think we're in business.
Ready to rock and roll?
Yep, I just need to share my screen. That's hope has to let me.
Okay, it's just a little bit after 6. This is the scope meeting for the Schomberg Drainage District. I'm Steve Christensen, Drain Commissioner for Leelanau County. Laurel Evans will be handling all of the communications. And Brian Sensi is here via Zoom. He is the engineer in the project. So I guess at this point in time, we'll turn it over to Brian, and we'll be getting an update on the progress with respect to Schomberg Drain.
Okay. First off, can everyone hear me and then also be able to see my screen on it?
Can everybody see that?
Turn it up a little bit.
Do you need to alter it a little bit? The screen moved to more?
That should have. So the purpose of the scope meeting is kind of just real simple. It's kind of just to give people an update we are in the project. The last meeting that we had where everyone was invited to was actually the board determination, which was, I
Brian,
believe,
you're kind of fading out.
sorry, I believe 2 years ago today, actually. Hold on one second. I'm going to put my headphones on. It's easier for people to hear me.
We cannot hear you.
Is that better for everyone? Can
Oh,
you
yeah.
hear me? Okay, good. Sorry, I look kind of stupid. I look like Bo Schombeckler, but that's all right. So the purpose of the scope meeting is just kind of actually very simple. It's just give you an update on where we're at with the project. It's to review the proposed design that we have. Look over the proposed schedule that we have between now and where we anticipate getting completion of the project such that we'll be able to let the construction plans to receive construction bids to do the work that's outlined for the project, and then just review the construction work timeline that we anticipate, and then answer any questions. And kind of the last item is just verify that all the work that we should be doing is being done, that we haven't missed anything in regards to the work, because we want to make sure and not go to construction having missed some item of work that someone has anticipated would be done as part of this project. So just to review real quick, the proposed drainage district boundary is in total just about there's 120 parcels that were noticed as part of the board of determination. The overall drainage district is just over 1,000 acres, with 933 acres being in Leelanau Township and about 71 acres being in Centerville Township. So currently the what's showing up in green is the drainage district boundary. The drainage district is also used as the assessment district. So when we do go and the next meeting date after this would be the day review of apportionments. And that is when this drainage district boundary would actually be finalized. If everyone remembers, at the board of determination, we indicated that this boundary, the district, tends to be a little bit larger when we start, because we don't have the full, at the very beginning, we don't have the scope of the work and know what the solution is going to be for the drain project. So it tends to be a little bit more encompassing when we go to the day review and have that day review. That drainage district boundary will actually just be all the properties that we feel do receive a benefit. So there may be some properties, and there are in this case, actually in the very north end on this particular map, that probably will not be in the drainage district boundary when we have the day review of apportionments, simply because they either potentially don't drain into the proposed drain work that we have, or we feel receive a benefit from the work that's taking place. On on the screen here, below is the proposed route of the drain as we anticipate it. So over to on the left side of the screen here is Lake Michigan. This is M22 Schomberg Road. What's shown in the solid green line is storm sewer pipe that's in the ground that we expect to be installed by directional drilling or trenchless installation, meaning we won't be disturbing the ground to install it by like open cutting with an excavator or anything like that. So the solid green line is the proposed storm sewer location, again, that we anticipate to go in the ground and be directionally drilled in place. And then the dashed line is simply, that's actually roughly the location of an existing ditch that goes up from M22, a ditch along M22 to Schomberg Road and goes underneath Schomberg Road in that location. We're not proposing to make any improvements to that ditch, but as part of the permit, we have had to sort of accommodate that water and still continue to have that open ditch in place because that's considered a regulatory stream in the eyes of the state. So it's just, we can't block that water or redirect it in some manner, causing that to be filled in or something. The proposed drain route is just about 1,200 feet, and it actually only encompasses on 2 properties. So we do have one easement to get, which is on the property, the triangular piece on M22 and Schomberg Road. We did get an easement on the property that my cursor's over on, the one that ends in 655009. We got a drain easement in order to install that pipe that we plan to just about 7 feet off the south property line is the approximate location for that storm sewer pipe. So just looking at the proposed route of the drain, this is actually looking at the easement area where this, so we do anticipate to directionally drill this underneath M22. Where my cursor's at on the left picture, it would be on the east side of M22, excuse me, the south side of M22, and what we would do is set up a bore pit just on that side and then direction drill underneath M22. The prior map, you notice there was a catch basin around in this location near the garage door of this property that's owned by the Tuppers, Tupper is their last name, which we got a easement from them in order to do this work. The picture on the right just shows that alignment looking again out towards Lake Michigan. If you were looking on the south or the east side of M22 in that location as well. So it's pretty close to this property line in through here. And that's one of the reasons why we need to, we aren't able to open cut it in this location. Also just for purposes of installing it within the easement that we were given as part of the work for this, and we were given the easement. We didn't have to pay for that particular easement in order to install that pipe there. So in order to actually fit it in that location close to that south property line of that property owner, that's the other reason for having to do a trenchless installation. Next page here just shows that just some pictures for everyone so they can see the alignment. It's again tight to the house. The top left picture shows kind of roughly where that alignment would be underground. And then the bottom left picture shows about where it would outlet about 45 feet just to the east of Lake Michigan there. So we would have the pipe would be exposed at that location, and then there would be a small riprap channel down to the beach in that location. And so it would, the outlet is roughly that line where you can see it, the location here taken from the Tupper property. And the bottom right picture just shows actually where that bore pit actually would be dug on the east side of M22 there. And then it shows the location of a proposed catch basin on that location once that bore pit was dug. And then the dash line in that picture, the bottom half of the picture, just shows where that open ditch, that existing ditch kind of goes back onto, it's the Molesky property in that location. Okay. I did put it's might be a little tough to see. I did put a profile of what the ground looks like in this location, that just so everyone can kind of see why we need to dig this by means of trenchless. So you can see the two catch basin locations. At those locations, the storm sewer is rather deep in order such that we could daylight it out into Lake Michigan. There's actually close to like a 25-foot cut in that location, but you'll see the storm sewer actually run shallow from the catch basin that's down near the driveway on the top property to the east side of M22. But you can see where my cursor's at is about where the center line of M22 is, and you can see exactly how deep that would be if we had to open cut that. That's almost 20 plus feet deep. In order to excavate that, we would have a pretty wide trench and would take up a good chunk of the road. So that's the other reason for doing a trenchless directional drill in that location. The last set of pictures here, page 8 of the presentation, over on the left side, that's just the existing private ditch that goes onto the Molesky property, where it comes daylights out of the woods on that property and goes on the kind of the south side or the southwest side of Schomberg Road in that location. And then the picture over on the right is looking down near Adam, standing on M22, looking to the kind of to the south along Schomberg Road along the east side of that. So that location in there, we are currently in and have been in discussions with the Conservancy. They have a conservation easement over this area with the homeowner, which is owned by Bruce Molesky, this property. So we have a proposed dry detention basin proposed to be installed in this location. The reason for the detention basin is so that we can install all we need is a 12-inch storm sewer pipe from the outlet location along M22, and then where we cross under M22 out into Lake Michigan, it only has to be a 12-inch pipe, because any large storm events, for example, will collect in this area, and then the water will be slowly released out through a control structure in the on the north end of this detention basin out into the storm sewer that goes along M22. So it allows us to also clean the water prior to discharging out into Lake Michigan as well. And that's one of the items that Eagle is always, the state is always concerned with for permitting reasons when doing these projects. The next slide here actually shows overall plan view of what that dry detention basin grading plan would be. Over on the south end of it is actually first flush area for stormwater treatment. And then there's two separate bays of where the bluish area, aqua colored area in the bottom kind of shows what it would look like after a rain event, such that there would be water there after a rain event. But then you can see a series of dashed lines in here, kind of like in a herringbone structure. Those are actually under drains that would be underneath the bottom of the detention basin. And that's why we call it a dry detention basin, because those under drains or perforated pipes would help to take away the storm water that's standing in the bottom of it after a rain event, and actually kind of triculate the water out through the 12-inch storm sewer outlet. And then what you see here actually is there's a catch basin in the center of it, and then there's a control structure, overflow structure that's at the very corner here. And then this is where we would then actually drill this pipe, 12-inch pipe along M22. Again, that would be pipe that would actually drill with an open cut excavation or anything with this project. The next slide here, this just shows the kind of the alignment, so you can see roughly how deep these areas would be. So the top one here, this east-west alignment, is actually a line that's running through this northernmost portion of the basin, this quadrant in through here. So where I'm running my cursor over, that's the existing ground topography through that detention basin at that cross section. And then the proposed solid darker line, you can see how much cut or excavation we would have to install as part of this project. And that is something that we're working with the Conservancy on, where they're actually going to be responsible for and help us with the restoration of this, such that it'll look aesthetically pleasing as well. And again, won't be anything that'll have standing water for like mosquitoes or anything like that. We want it to be a dry system. And so we'll actually rely heavily on them in doing the restoration work for this area. And then the bottom profile just shows these three different stormwater bays in the detention basin. You can actually see how deep they would be. That the southerly most one, the first flush basin, can have at most 3 feet of water before it overflows into the next system. That's the same for the middle portion, can only have at its highest depth a maximum of 3 feet of water deep. So these aren't really super deep systems as well, but they can store a decent amount of water. And then the last one can be up to 5 feet deep at its deepest depth location of open water. And then it's a little tough to see, but this is actually our design plan sheet. This is showing the pipe that is along M22 in the location that we're proposing to directionally drill. And then this just shows that the grading of that dry detention area in through there. And you can again see that we're just by using the trenchless or the directional drilling, because we're again fairly deep, 10 to 14 feet deep we would be if we had to open cut this along M22. It would be impossible for us to install that within the right of way, to stay within the right of way and not impact the road in any manner. So directional drilling in this case is a lot easier to do if you have storm sewer that's smaller, like 12 or 15 inches. So again, by putting this dry detention basin system in, it's allowing us to keep the storm sewer size very small, so that we can directionally drill it and actually install this within the right of way and not have to get additional easement or impact the road and have significant more costs with this drain project as part of it. So this is kind of a cost decision in doing that proposed work. Just you can see how deep the pipe would have to be if this were an open cut installation. And then the very last thing is, this is just a very rough schedule. So where we stand today, we have a permit that has been submitted to Eagle. They have not noticed it yet for public notice. So as part of the public notice process, we did give them a list of all properties that are within 500 feet of the proposed work that we have called out in this project. They will send out, once they consider our permit administratively complete, they'll send out a public notice that simply outlines the work and gives 20 days to receive public comment from any individuals within 500 feet of the work, or any municipalities that are impacted as part of the work. So we are in discussions with the Mr. Molesky and the Conservancy in regards to that dry detention area. Hopefully by the end of May, we should be close to getting that. We look to receive our Eagle permit hopefully by the end of June, such that in July of this year, we can issue a notice of letting, which is essentially the public bid notice for the construction contract. So we'd look to have roughly a 4-week bid period where we would make plans available to contractors. And you all would receive a copy of that notice of letting. And then in July, you would get a copy of the notice of day of review of apportionments. And that's where it says down the beginning of August 2021, we'd probably look to have that day of review. You'll get that notice, and on that notice for the day of review, we'll have your tentative assessment that we estimate having as part of the project. That's a new item that's included on notices now for days of review. That just is something that went into law at the end of March here of 2021. So you will have a tentative assessment included with your notice as well. But that day of review is essentially your day where you can come and see the proposed apportionments that we're proposing to assess as part of this project. And the drain commissioner hears testimony on that day and can actually make changes to the assessment roll on that day, or up to 10 days after that day of review. But once that day of review, 10 days after that day of review is the clear period for any appeals. So once we clear the appeals, which would be around the middle of August, then we would quickly move into financing of the drain project. We're probably looking at doing a 10-year finance period, and just having to get a note from a bank. But we would look, whatever the assessment was, for example, like if someone's assessment was $1,000, we would look to finance it over 10 years. So, you'd roughly be paying, $115 per year for a 10-year period is probably around what it would work out to, with like a 10-year payback period. And those assessments would first show up on this December's winter tax bill. So your December 1 of 2021 would be when that shows up on your taxes, and that would be for every December 1 taxes for the next 10 years. You can always pay that off at any time as part of it. But around the end of August, we would look to go into construction and then look to be substantially complete, meaning we'd have all the items done that would require restoration by mid-October of 2021 this year. So this would be something, again, that we're looking to complete this work, bid it, and have it constructed all this year as well. And with that, that is everything that I have for the presentation. Laura will get a copy of this and she will make it available on the website to everyone as well, so they can get a copy of this on the website too.
Thanks,
So-
Brian.
Yep.
Nicely done. When you said this year, it was music to my ears, so I got my fingers crossed.
Yep.
But looks really good. At this point, we could read the phone number. Laurel, do you have that? And then if you have a question, you can call in and we can hear your question.
If you'd like to comment on today's scope meeting, please call 231-256-8109.
Could you repeat that, please?
231-256-8109. Does anybody have comment here?
Comments?
Yeah, do you want to
I've
comment?
got a lot of comments on this.
Let's catch this call first. I'm sorry. We could have taken room first, but scope meeting for the Schomberg Drainage District. Could you state your name and your address and state your question?
Sure. My name is Kim Hayes. My address is 4972 South Line Lake Road, Cedar, 49621. My question is if a description could be given of like a final product pre-restoration, what the ground in that detention basin area would really look like. It's hard for me to imagine, post-construction. And I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, my name is Kim Hayes.
Ask her to turn off her computer
Can you turn off your computer
or mute it.
or mute it? Just a few comments up front on the restoration of the basin area, the dry basin area. As Brian mentioned, we're working closely with the Conservancy. They have an easement on that property, and our easement is going to overlay with theirs, and they're in the process of working out the legal language of that. They have some real precise control over what kind of plants will go in there and what the look of that area will be. In essence, it's going to be natural. It's going to look very similar to what it looks like today. It's like I said, they're gonna be leading the charge on that and giving us all of the detail with regard to plantings and structure of what will be planted there. Again, it'll be all native. And we're gonna lean on them as far as a person or a company to make sure that they would bid on the project. We want the Conservancy and the company that ends up doing the work to be very compatible. It has to be exactly the way it's written out in that easement. So we'll have a lot of controls on that. It'll be very specifically laid out for us.
Okay, thank you for that response.
Did that answer that, I hope?
Mostly, if I could ask one quick follow-up, I appreciate that. When it says that it's a dry basin, I'm just not fully understanding if pre-restoration, if that is going to just, which essentially as it does now, just essentially graded. or if there would be depressions, because of the basin. Not sure if you get some finesse on that.
Brian, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
defer
there,
to you.
yeah, so there would be like depressions, I guess, that you would see. But as far as when we say dry basin, it just means that the intent is not to have any permanent standing water in there after rain events. So that's why it's kind of laid out in a very much like you would drain a golf course. Low areas in golf courses, there's kind of an under drain system that's underneath it that continually drains that subsoil subbase at the bottom of the basin in order to keep that area dry. Essentially, we just don't want to have pockets of standing water where, like, mosquito can really breed in and whatnot. There's enough areas around that can breed mosquitoes. We don't want to add to it. So it's, from an aesthetic standpoint, it will look very similar to what it looks like there now, like Jim said, but you will see like it look a little deeper, I guess.
Okay, thank you. I think I heard that. Just so you know, if other people call in, I couldn't hear that response quite as clearly as, the other person. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm Donald Morton. I live at 1504 Schomberg Road. I bought my property in 72 and I built 76. I can remember when that creek going down the Schomberg Road went underneath Dubek and went right across the street underneath M22 right out into Lake Michigan. We never had a lick of trouble up till you rerouted this around Molesky's property, and Molesky's property got flooded.
You could put them
I'm
on.
old. I got a lot to say here. I think this project is being run right down our throats with all our son even having to say so about this.
It's an orange button.
I don't agree with it 1%, If things would have been done right to begin with, we wouldn't be going through this predicament right now. Everybody in the township should be paying for the damn thing, not just the people in this area. I don't agree with this at all. This drain commission is right up to there with me. I'm sick of it. I know it doesn't sound good, but somebody's got to be responsible for this, not just the people in this area. Going to pay for the thing. Everybody should be paying for it. Maybe the Conservancy could pay for it. I don't think we should be paying for it to begin with. We never had a problem until this creek got rerouted down there. Schomberg Road Creek. I don't know what the name of it is, but I've lived there for 44 years. When you rerouted it there, we had all sorts of trouble. That field across the road from Molesky's, that flooded. That's been 35 years ago. You disturbed it from the word go, and it's never been corrected since. I know Bruce Molesky's been swamped with water there. He's living in a low-lying area to begin with. I feel sorry for him and his wife and family. But bygones should be bygones. This project stinks from the word go. I hope everybody else in this room can agree with me too. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. I think we'll go to the hold. Are you still there? I'm going to put you on speakerphone. And you can state your name and address and
Tell them to mute their
can you
computer.
mute your computer, please?
I said that someone else is still speaking, aren't they?
That was the computer, I think. Go ahead. Name and address, please.
My name is Joan Neal, 170 South Manitou Passage Trail, neighbors of the Peppers. I just have one question for Brian, which is what it looks like when the pipe comes out near Lake Michigan. What it looks like down on that end. And I can hang up, I don't need to stay on to the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear that real well. You said what, the type of what would look like?
What does it look like at the lakeside when it comes out down there? She wanted to know what it's going to look like down there.
Oh, there's actually a location that we have. I think there's still a stake there and a flag where the proposed outlet location is, but it'll just be a small 12-inch pipe with like a grate, and then basically maybe a roughly 3 to 4 foot wide and 6 to 10-inch deep swale that goes out. There's a little kind of sand bluff area that's maybe 4 or 5 feet higher than where the beach is at. So it would be about right at that location where we have it staked, and then a small rock swale down, simply down to the edge of the beach location in the water in that location. So kind of a small depressional swale, like in the ground, covered with rock, essentially, out from the outlet location, the pipe outlet location to the lake. It's about 40 feet or so in length.
How much pollution is gonna cause Lake Michigan here? Good harbor.
There's a comment from the floor about pollution, Brian. Can you address that?
Well, actually, the stormwater, the dry stormwater basin that's being installed has a lot of benefits that it's helping us with us. And one of the biggest items is sediment reduction and suspended solids in stormwater, which is essentially most of the pollution in stormwater runoff from that dry detention basin, because the only way water can really get into the pipe is having to infiltrate through a soil layer in the ground into a perforated pipe that has a geotextile sock over it. So again, there's another filter location before that water gets into the pipe. So that water is extremely clean and clear when it's in that pipe, and where it comes out at the location of out into the lake. So having that dried basin actually helps us with our permitting with the state, because they consider that a good sediment reduction system, essentially cleaning the water up such that the turbidity is very, very low. It's very, very clear water when it comes out down at the lake.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to read one that came in quite late, and Laurel just forwarded it to me. This is from Sarah Michael. I'll just read it off. Hello, sorry for the last minute question and comment. I'm curious what the financial burden will be on property owners included in the drainage district, and I believe Brian has addressed that. Also, what will be the financial burden for the townships and or the county? And before Brian answers that, I would like to see the flooding issues remedied, but I am not thrilled to have to pay a yet unknown amount for something I did not cause, will not benefit from, and had no voice in developing a plan for. So Brian, I guess what at-large entities are there, and what portion would they be paying?
So yeah, that is one thing. I did not include that on here, and that is simply because this will be the first assessment that you do, and so I don't want to speak for you, the drain commissioner, in regards to that, but the at-large entities would be MDOT, there are 2 townships as well, and then the county pays for benefit of the county roads within the district as well. In general, the townships typically are between 15 and 20% on a project cost. So that's whether there's 1 township or 5 townships split up in the district. They're typically, again, between 15 to 20%. The county is typically between 5 and 10%. And MDOT in this case is probably in the neighborhood of 10% as well. So if you kind of add those up, that's between 35 to 40% of the overall cost will actually be paid for by at-large entities, which pay for the benefits that they receive to public health on a whole. And then the remaining 65 to 60% of the project cost would be paid for through the assessments to individual properties within that 1,000-acre drainage district. So the 120 or so properties, it would be divided up amongst those properties based upon, in the law, it's called benefits derived, but it'll typically be based upon the size of the parcel that you have that is within the district. And then will assign a runoff coefficient to each of the parcels based on how that property is used. So whether it's agricultural, residential, or it's a vacant lot perhaps that has no house on it, property without a house on it is going to have a lower runoff coefficient than a property with a house on it. And then the proximity to the drain might also be a consideration as well. But again, kind of how the assessment done, the way it's done under the drain code is that if you contribute a portion of stormwater, whether you're the guy at the very top of the hill or the gal at the very top of the hill of Schomberg Road, and you don't have a single bit of flooding issue, yet your water may contribute and make its way down all the way that comes out into that proposed pipe. So if you contribute water to the system and the cost of the system that needs to be installed to remedy whatever the issue is, you pay for a portion of the cost. So that's kind of how benefit is considered in terms of properties.
What's the estimate? What's the overall estimate, Brian?
Do not have one at this point because there are still some costs that we do not know yet. We still have to pay for some items in regards to the easement with the Conservancy, and directional drill costs right now are hugely fluctuating in regards to contractors, and I do not have a very good feel for trenchless contractors in this particular area. So
What's a compared project in another area for an estimate?
Could you please state your name?
Oh
and
yeah,
address?
Ben Crow, Schomberg Road, 1126.
What was your name?
Ben Crow, CROW, 1126 South Schomberg Road. New owner, new build. So Brian, in another area of Michigan in your expertise, what is an estimate?
We're probably in the neighborhood of a total project cost of so construction, a minimum contingency of between 10 and 15%, financing costs of probably around $500,000, I would say. So.
Thank you.
Can you estimate that property owners would be responsible for about 65% of that?
Yeah, again, I've laid out some very just general percents for like at large is what they are. But yeah, roughly around that.
So you said it was about $1,000 per property owner. You got 120 owners. There's the difference. So over 10 years. or an average, right? I think that's what he said, right?
Yeah, I'm,
Okay. Drain commissioner, what's your guys' ticket on this? What are you guys gonna pay for?
Brian, is there any 15-year money available?
well, yeah, we can get a longer term financing note. We could get up to 20 years if we wanted. That's one of the items that at the day review is we like to get feedback in regards to the payback period, whether it should be 10 or maybe people are more comfortable with a 15-year payback period. So
No, Brad,
That's
nobody's
typical.
comfortable with anything. I wanna ask the drain commissioner what their ticket is on this. What is their opinion? How much do they wanna pay? What's in your budget?
Brian just laid out the at-large entities, and he
Okay.
listed them.
Well, what's the county's ticket? What do they want? to pay?
The county road commission, Brian just said, is in the neighborhood of 10%.
Overall, we pay the 65%.
Yeah.
County makes up the other 35%.
Yeah,
the at-large entities make up that. Yeah.
yeah, the at-large, so the other entities. Conservation, the county, and
The townships, MDOT, and the county.
so county's only paying 10%.
County road commission comes in with a formula, I believe, isn't that right, Brian?
Yeah, they pay based on Rule 14 of Act 51. It's a formula based. It's called Rule 14A, but it's probably going to be between around 10%. And the county actually only pays under the drain code half of the assessment. The other half is supposed that goes to the county is supposed to be paid for by the road commission out of their Act 51 monies that they receive federally. So it's just that you use that formula, and that's determines what they're allowed to use money that they get through Act 51 for paying of drain assessments.
So Brian, Act 51, is that based on just county roads or use of the road, including county road pit in the backyard of my house? That's is that part of the easement? Is that part of the Schomberg drain dip? Their actual pit road back in there, is that contributing to it? The lack of development, trees, drainage, open field, all the above?
Yep. So part of Act 51 too is if there are the road commission or the county has a property that is located in the drain district, as long as it's adjacent to a road, then it's used in that same formula in their overall assessment. So it does get taken into consideration as part of their assessment as well, like the property that they own back there for the pit.
Okay.
But it's used in the formula.
Okay. On top of the act or additional? I mean, you're saying they're paying the 10% just because of the road commission. Are they paying an additional money because of their parcel? Or is that the same?
Yes, there's a formula that is used to actually determine their percent. Their percent's not going to be exactly 10%. It might be like 11.2%. And there is a formula in the any land that they own that is adjacent to road right of way is also considered in that formula for the county.
Has the water quality been tested, Brian? As far as, I don't know, a couple orchards up there, a couple winery, a winery, a orchard, what is the water quality coming from those two major production sites? I guess those are the questions I have. Can I drink out of that stream?
We've done no water quality testing, and then drain projects. That's not typically something that is even required.
Sure. Okay. I mean, sorry. Commission, is there money in the budget to pay some more for Leelanau County?
Brian just laid out the formulas that are being used. I don't have any swing as far as adjusting any formulas for this project. It's all by law.
Yeah.
Can we ask them to pay more, Brian?
I'll have to put you on hold for a minute. Hang on.
Yeah, as kind of separate from this drain project, Steve and I do plan, we wanted to plan to meet with the county administrator in just kind of going over the process for these drain projects. There are a couple counties in the state, like Livingston County as an example. They have an agreement worked out between their county board and their drain commissioner for the last 20 years that every drain petition that they do, they will pay, I believe it's 25% no matter what. However, they will not use any formula to determine that, like any of the Rule 14A stuff to determine that. They'll just be 25% on every project. But that's just something that they don't have to do. It's just an agreement that they worked out. But Steve and I have wanted to have discussion with the county just to kind of explain the assessment process. And that's kind of one of the items we wanted to talk to them in regards to the drain projects, is potentially, maybe getting something like that worked out with them. But there's no guarantees on that.
Are you guys open to that, discussing it?
I'm open. Brian and I will set a meeting with Chet and start the ball rolling.
Okay. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have their assessment dollars of what their property and the Act Code 45 or 44 to compare it to, right? I mean, it's not gonna be 26%, they pay 25, right? You should have those numbers at the time before August, correct, Brian?
Yes, yeah, we'll have what their
Okay.
14A percentage would be, and yeah, we would want to meet with them before then to just talk about it, kind of in reference to every drain project that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, this might be the same person. Just a second. Schomberg scope meeting. Okay, you're on hold. Okay, I'm gonna put. Oh, okay, I can put you through. Hang on, I'll put you on speaker. And state your name and address and go ahead with your question, okay?
Whatever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Everybody else?
Yep, go ahead.
My name is Jerry Gross, 365 South Schomberg Road. And I got, first of all, a comment. I've had this property for 20 years, and there was no issue when we bought the property. The water was minimal. So I'm still curious as to where this water is coming from. That's number one. My second concern is the very short notice for this meeting of 1 week to try to attend it for people who don't live year round. Made it really impractical to try and attend this meeting. It just makes it sound as if it's something that's being forced and jammed, in my opinion. And I'm wondering if, I understand there's a problem, but it sounds like a very small percentage of people have this problem, and that they're asking a lot of people to pay for it that don't have a problem. So my other question is, was it ever considered to have a survey to ask people if they are affected by this? Because my property is not affected, and I don't believe that I contribute to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
It cut out about was he saying, did we take a survey of people to see if they had issues or not? Or
Right,
I mean-
I think the question is, how does drainage law work? And,
okay.
obviously, he's not affected. And would like to know, basically, how does this thing work?
I mean, assessments under the law for properties are based upon benefits derived in general on drain projects. I mean, the majority of people in the drain district do not have problems or issues. However, the law says that if you contribute stormwater, whether it's 1/2 of 1% of 1 gallon or 1,000,000 gallons, you pay for a portion of the cost of that that it costs to handle, manage, and deal with that stormwater project. So that's where we use the drainage district in determining the properties that would ultimately pay for the remaining costs after the at-large's percentage, pay for the remaining portion of the cost of a drain project. And that's where we look to assess that amount out over a 10, 15, or sometimes 20-year payback period, such that it's not one big lump sum that we hit people one time, where they can pay that off amount over a 10, 15, 20-year period. So
I think the other part of that question may be heading toward how do drainage districts come about? How does it happen that we have a drainage district, and what's the strategy for the drain code law, I guess?
I mean, it's considered a chapter 3-4 drain, meaning that it was a petition by the townships to first lay out the drain district and then petition to establish and construct a drain. And so there's a 2-step process in order to do that. And once you have both those items, then Steve is mandated under the law to hold a board of determination. And 3 property owners that live in the county that do not live in either the Centerville or Leland Township sat on that board of determination board and heard testimony from landowners in regards to the necessity to establish that drain as a county drain. And so there's kind of some pretty strict requirements that boards of determination have in order to make their decision. And they determined that it was necessary. And so that's kind of how a new drain district and new county drain get established. That's the process for. Now, in the future, if there could always be a petition on the Schomberg drain, and it would be considered a Chapter 8 improvement petition in the future because it's already established, and the drain is already established as a county drain. But every new county drain kind of has to go through that 2-step process in Michigan to get established initially.
Okay, I've got another call coming in here. Still there? Okay, I'll put you on speaker and you can give name and address.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is Patricia Phillips-Little, and I'm at 187 South Highland Drive. And my question is, and I think Brian might have answered it, but I didn't catch it. Can an individual homeowner do an early payoff before the end of the 10-year period? And if so, are there any penalties?
Yeah, you can always pay off your assessment subject to, so that it won't be financed. What we'll do is after the day review, once the 10-day appeal period ends, after that, if there are no appeals, we will send out, a lot of drain commissioners send out then typically a letter that gives people a date final, which they will need to get payment of their assessment, subject to them not being added to the overall financing amount that will go to the bank and actually borrow for. So yeah, there will be a time period. Usually it's only about 3 or 4 weeks typically that's given to pay that off before it's put on to the taxes. But then anytime, you know, if you sell your property, any title company is gonna want clear title on your property. So if there is an assessment on it, you know, like if it's within, you know, let's say it's year 7 of the 10-year payback, they're going to make you pay that remaining 3 years at the time of that sale of the property. So that the payoffs do happen, you know, when you sell a property too, typically. It's not required under the law that it's paid off, but I don't know a title company that doesn't want clear title when selling a property. So they typically require it.
Lauren Mathias, 4740 East Kentucky Road, and I have a question and a request. Will the assessment be assessed per parcel or per landowner? Because we have several parcels that are endangered in the district, and I'm wondering if we're going to get hit with multiple assessments. And I would like to request a copy of whatever survey or geological proof has been completed that proves our individual parcels materially contribute to the flooding problem. I would like copies of anything that proves our parcel is contributing instead of us just being tossed into what they think is the drainage system. Because we have property at the top of Dufac that slopes away to the east that is being lumped in with this that I cannot imagine contributes to the flooding problem. So whoever, I don't know who I request that from, but I would like that proof sent to us.
You look on Dufac?
Yeah, up the top. So are we gonna get multiple assessments, and who will be providing that information? About the drainage and our property specifically contributing to it.
Yeah, it looks at, I mean, if you have 3 separate parcel numbers that are in the district, then you would have an assessment on each of the parcels. We don't look at owners and lump assessments together or anything like that. But it also doesn't make a difference in regards to the assessments, whether you own 1 or, you know, 3 properties. Like simply owning a property isn't a factor in like the assessment. Again, I said we look at the acreage of a property, the land use, and typically proximity. And yeah, you know, there may be a property that is not in the district that you have, and such that you wouldn't even get a notice or get assessed for it as part of it.
Can you, Brian, can you also address farmland? These parcels are large farm parcels.
In regards to what? Just how we treat them?
Yeah.
So typically, I mean, what we normally do for assessing with like agricultural properties is their runoff factors tend to be very low typically. But it's kind of on a parcel by parcel basis we look at. It's not really you know, every property is different and unique. Some may be sloped heavily to the drain, some may be tiled and have their drainage actually tiled out of, you know, that contribute less water to the drain because they have their field tiled, for example, and maybe it routes elsewhere. So, I mean, there's not a hard and fast way, you know, rule on doing assessing from, you know, one property to the next. But in general, their runoff factors are lower than other runoff factors on parcels.
Okay, but I still didn't hear who is going to be providing me with proof that my property.
I would request that you submit a FOIA request to Steve on what specifically you want, because it's not something that is normally done or provided on a project. So
Okay, so you're assessing my property even though you have no proof that it's contributing?
no, we
Okay.
have, the county has 1 foot LiDAR data that we use to help determine what the drainage district boundary is. So that's the biggest indication in regards to the drain district boundary, is using the county's 1 foot contours to determine that boundary line.
Okay, so it's just file a FOIA, you can get it? Is that what you said?
That LiDAR data is available on, the county has a GIS map that you can, that's one of the layers on there, is turn on that LiDAR data and you can actually see the entire topography in the entire county, and you can zoom into a particular area, and you can use ArcGIS as a program that will actually lay out drain districts using that LiDAR data.
Okay, I'll have my attorney get on that.
Are you still there? Okay, I am going to put you on speakerphone. And you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Gerald Gross again, and I too would like to get a copy of the survey that shows that my property contributes to the water issue as well. And also, 2 of my questions were not answered. The first one was, as I stated earlier, when I first bought this property, there was no water issue. Why is this happening now? What is your research that shows why this is happening? And B, why was this meeting so short notice that these people who don't live there year round were not able to attend with very little notice? Thank you.
The timing of the notice for the meeting is mine, and I took note that it was noted by you to be too short of a notice. And I appreciate that input, and I will obviously change that for the next meeting. It's interesting about what's going on with the water on Schomberg. Historically, it went underground, and we can go back quite a few years to see where that was going underground. And at one point, it got directed to the county road ditch and went underground. And then over time, that water gradually would go farther and not go underground, and go farther and not go underground, until it made it all the way down to M22 and ponded there. So historically, this water that used to go underground is not going underground anymore. And so that's kind of why we're dealing with a problem now, as opposed to, say, 60 years ago. So it's a stream in a valley that's creating problems and flooding. So that's kind of where we are now. Your property is on the north side, and Brian said that some of those properties probably will not be in the final district. They'll have to be researched, and I believe I've got an email from you, don't I? Might not be on. But anyway, hopefully that answered them.
My name is Joyce Lawson. I live at 716 Yags Drive in Vincy County, Dubuque. I've owned my property since 1990 on Weaver Lane. I'm on the farthest lot as you go up the hill. And I vacationed up here since 1970. I'm like, I've been right here. And there's been years that that property on north of Schomberg on N22 and south of Schomberg was flat. And then on a dry year, it kind of amazed me that those people had purchased that property, because I thought, how would that property perk? And now the creek is going behind their house, like they dug out a ditch. I thought that the property was supposed to be that it drained down, it came right down N22, it went under that road in that culvert and went out. And now it's ending up in those people's yard and in their garage that is across the road. If you talk to those people that sold it to that young couple, that long brick house that they took the trees off, you'd find that I'm pretty sure they never, ever had a problem. Because that drain probably was never cleaned out in how many years? And now we've got this, that I'm sorry for those people. I'm surprised Leelanau County gave them a permit to build on something that I'd like to see their perk test. Because it didn't make sense that when I seen that home getting built there, I went, wow. But it was a dry year. It was a dry year, probably when they purchased the home and built that home. And now they've got water going behind them, in front of them, and I can't blame them. And I feel sorry for the people across N22 on Lake Michigan. And then the other thing that I want to stress is, okay, you build these dry beds. Underneath there, that silt and everything that's coming out of that spring-fed creek, it's spring-fed up there. And it goes right down underneath Weaver Lane, there's a culvert, and it keeps on going. And you know what? Where is it supposed to go? If you start rerouting the water, and I think those people did, and that's why it didn't go down 22, under that road, at that big concrete, how long's it been there? You know where it's at. And then somebody says, okay.
Water never went there again.
Yeah, it went away from it.
Completely abandoning the drain that's there. It was a perfectly good drain.
The Moleskis got that property, the one that built that house.
Uh-huh,
He got that from his mother and father.
okay.
That was in the family for 60 years.
Probably farmland. Maybe farmland there, I don't
No,
know.
he
Probably
screwed
just-
that up when it went, it used to go underground right out of Lake
Yeah.
Michigan.
It did.
And they rerouted it and it screwed up the,
Brian, you're still there, right?
Once he rerouted it,
that's it. That's what happened.
Is there an existing drain that is there still?
No,
Did they take it off?
there's a 18 by 72 inch culvert down there that's completely plugged up with brush and everything else. We abandoned it. Here it is.
This is what I got from the first meeting.
Completely abandoned, the route the water was taking. I'm burning lawsuit.
He's lived here all his life.
And I've lived in
Born and
this
raised
town all my life. I went to school here. But I don't understand why we completely abandoned this drain where all the houses were down in there, the lots were there.
They were there, yeah.
The only place we had water was up above, and he made it worse when he dug around the house. Totally. And now we're all responsible for what somebody did without coming to the drain commissioner and say, hey,
I got a problem.
how did he get a permit? How did he get, where's the septic tank? Does he have one?
Yeah, where's the drain bill?
This is nuts to make all this pay for what someone did. That water ran through there long before he was there and I was there, long before that.
You're a pretty old guy too, aren't you?
That's right. I'm a pretty old guy, yeah.
You remember when it went under M22, there was a pond over there between M22 and Lake Michigan?
Yes.
My kids used to go down there and play in that damn pond when they were little.
So I mean, here we are, we've abandoned something that worked for a lot of years because of one person changing the routes without proper permission. I think it's totally wrong. I really do. Should have said this when the first meeting came about. Here's the paperwork, and there's the culvert, there's where it went. Now they changed.
You went to that meeting
Yes, there is.
and Bayer from Sutton's Bay chaired that meeting.
Yes.
And he sit right there in the chair when they pledge of allegiance. And he's, I thought, what kind of patriotic guy is this guy sitting on his ass in a chair, didn't even stand for the pledge of allegiance?
Yeah, let's go to your comment.
All right, I got a couple questions. Walensky did put a channel across his road.
Excuse me, could you please state your name and address?
Charles Zeitz, Zeits, 1199 Schomberg Road.
Thank you.
Okay. Walensky put a piece of trench across his property. When I put my driveway into my house, I had to go through the drain commission and get a permit. And put a culvert in. Where is his? Also, the county has been putting down and channeling that stream further and further because they take out all the vegetation and everything and make it a free flowing stream. And when you put my permit in and you came up to my house, you told me you wanted to see that stream eventually flow to Lake Michigan. So how about you and the county pay for it?
Well, but obviously it's a problem area and.
Well,
and
you
getting-
created it, you're not following your own rules, how about you pay for your mistake?
We should all take a look at the person that made the ditch. That's what we should look at, all of us. Rather than you come to us, we go to him. Why didn't he do it properly? Can you answer that question? Why didn't he come to the drain commissioner and say, look, I've got a problem with water.
And I'm gonna have to.
So what he does, he takes it upon himself, evidently, unless someone gave him permission, and that may be more the case, drain the trench. And the water goes right down to those people, right through their
Now, why
house.
does-
They've lost trees.
You putting in the new drain, go past Dufek Road, all the way to M22, then back at a right angle across, around Walensky's property. How much is that costing? Just go to where the water all collects at Dufek Road, at the bottom.
Straight through.
Either go under his, make it a straight line, gotta be cheaper.
This committee's already made their mind up, this project gonna go through, and that's the way it stands right now. They're not gonna change their mind. Is that right?
The
Why weren't we all notified and voted on it then?
We've never voted on anything. It's supposed to be a free
That's not-
democratic country.
Well, the drain law is not set up that way. The drain law is set up through application
It
and
only applies to
petition.
certain people.
Application and petition. Once I get an application, I have to turn around and make the district. Once I do that, then the application for the petition goes out. So it's application, petition. Once they get the petition, it goes to board of determination. It's set up by law. So once I get that, once I am approached and somebody wants to go and get signatures and get the application going, then I explain what the procedure is. I don't get to choose that. And then once you get to the board of determination, they determine whether it is or isn't needed. So it's not a democratic thing at all. It's a solution for a few people who are getting flooded. That's why we have, the drain code.
But the root cause was not us. The root cause was the guy that dug the trench. We are not the problem.
Extended the ditch.
We live on top of the hill with hundreds of trees. Now, you're gonna tell me that our hill drains off more water than any place else? That's crazy. There's 1,000,000 yards of dirt between there and that stream. He would never get there. Never.
The situation with Molesky's property, there's a culvert down near M22 that drains from their property to the field that has been there for a very long time. At a certain point in time, as the water in the field became more and more and more and more, as it got higher in the field, the water flowed backwards through that culvert and flowed across Molesky's property to the M22 ditch, to the box culvert, and flooded the people down below. So that was the route of the water, And that's what the water was doing. It was going to the M22 ditch across the Molesky's property under the box culvert to flood the people down below. That's what was happening. As it turns out, where the water was flowing across his property is where his drain field is. So he worked with the county road commission to get a cross culvert and a trench in to help take the water to the same place it was going without flooding his drain field. So he went through the county road commission and he had me involved also looking at it. The DEQ had to come and declare whether or not this is a stream or not, or what is going on here. It's an intermittent flow and all of that. So that at that point in time, back in 04, 05, or whenever it was, he had a problem that he was trying to work through with the county road commission. At that point in time, it was somewhat intermittent. However, since that point in time, we have a full flowing stream 24/7 all year. And it's more at certain times and less at others. So this is a situation that was a problem. And he requested the procedure. What is the procedure to do a drainage district? And going out and getting signatures for the application is the first step. Going out and getting signatures for a petition is the second step. And he did that.
So what you're telling me.
So that brought us to board of determination.
So what you're telling me is his drain field was going this way. It got into that drain and it came back to Lake Michigan and went across the street. How is Leelanau County letting his drain field run across 22 and go into those people's garages? How is Leelanau County doing that? How did that get passed?
It's not his drain field that's running there. His drain field was getting flooded by the surface water.
Correct.
It wasn't his drain field going there, it was surface
Okay.
water.
Okay, so that drain field is getting flooded, and then it's sitting there, and then when it goes down, it's heading right across 22, and that's a drain field water. How is Leelanau County letting that go on?
Because Michigan doesn't have septic laws, the only state that states.
Well, I guarantee they have a septic law for that one.
Okay, so what, I believe what you're saying is that you approved everything that is causing the problem,
Did you pay for, did the county pay for your goal?
There you go.
correct?
Did the county pay for it? Or
There-
did the pay for it?
The cause of the problem is the excess water.
Okay, and the excess water became a problem when you rerouted?
No, the excess water became a problem when the excess water made it to M22.
Why is it making it to M22 now?
It doesn't go underground anymore.
Why
It
does
used to go underground, now it doesn't. It just flows.
Because it used to, and a house was built over the drain on Lake Michigan. That's what happened in the 80s. When they built over that natural flowing stream. And it got covered up by the house.
Okay, did the drain commission give him approval for a permit for what he
I know who
did?
built that house.
When he built his house?
No, the drain commission wasn't involved at that point.
Why weren't they? Should they have been?
The house referred to there in the 80s, I don't know what was happening in the 80s.
Well, no, when Molesky's built their house, they are a problem property.
Their house was built possibly before we had a drain commissioner, but there was, we didn't start doing soil erosion control until it was 30 years ago. So that house was there before soil erosion control. That house, there was very little water there originally when they built. So
But you're
water
just talking about-
started to pond in that field about the time I became the drain commissioner 20 years ago. So you could start to see water in that field about 20 years ago.
Okay.
So gradually, that it wasn't a problem that got me involved at that point, and it didn't get Bruce so involved until we got so much water in that field that it started running backwards in that culvert and then flooding his old property. So that's the point where things really started to to be problematic for him. And the water was still at that point going to the county road ditch and going to the people down below and flooding them too. So at that point in time, we're having flooding in both locations. And at that point in time, he asked about drainage districts, and I did some research, and I ended up hiring Brian and started to do drainage districts. This was my first drainage district to start. So first board of determination meeting was 2 years ago, almost exactly.
What year did Bruce Molesky and his wife build that house?
That's a good question, and I don't have an
1986,
answer.
I think, 1986, I think.
No,
Are you sure?
after that.
After that? Maybe that's when he said he bought the property.
You know, it's funny, I used to squirrel on Duplex Woods in 1962. That water was always there, it was on the way.
I remember the name of that creek to begin with, it was just a free flowing.
Just a little creek,
Is
yeah.
there an existing drain there? We're saying there's already an existing drain there, right? That has been drained out to Lake Michigan, right?
Bruce, I'll put you at home for a second.
Is there an existing drain there that drains out there, has drained out?
No, there's no drain there, there's no drain listed, there's no easement for a drain, that's been checked. There's,
Yeah.
Was it ever a natural spring?
What's this?
Is there a natural spring that goes out that way? Out on Lake
Where?
Michigan from the corner of Schomberg, across 722, down the west of Manitou Passage? There's no underwater stream that goes out to Lake Michigan right there?
I'm a little unsure as to what underwater streams there would be in that general area. I know that when you walk the shore in that general area, there are multiple springs and streams all along that whole area. You know, there's many of them. But Bruce is on the line. I'm gonna give him a shout here. Still there? Okay, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. Go ahead.
I hear somebody talking.
You need to mute your computer.
Mute. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Hi there, my name's Bruce Molesky, 300 Schomberg Road, Lake Leelanau. I'm just listening to some of the comments here, some that live up the road from me and some that are adjacent property owners. I purchased this property and owned it before I built my house and probably had it 5 or 6 years, maybe even more. And there was never any water on it. The water never made it down to my property. It went underground. And, but I think what everybody needs to know is this water and creek has been rerouted down the Schomberg Road Valley. It's been rerouted numerous times. And people have dug ponds to put fish in. And there's several things that have been done. But anyway, I would like to have somebody that says that there's a culvert on my property that went under 22 to where it ran out to Lake Michigan in the past.
Right here. It's on this map that you gave me the map. Here's the culvert. It's on this whole section that you passed out on April 23rd, 2017.
That had that same color.
Yeah. And they were talking about cleaning that culvert out at that meeting. You guys got the minutes.
The box culvert, are you referring to the box culvert?
I'm referring to that culvert that goes underneath 22, that you guys were talking about, cleaning that culvert.
That and box color, both.
Yes.
I guess I'd have to look at the document you have.
No, it's
to
what you passed
respond.
out.
I'd
You
have
guys
to,
gave
I'd
this
have
to
to,
us.
I'd have to look at it. It's too far for me to look at. We can, go ahead, Bruce.
If you're talking about the box culvert, which is just a little bit to the south and west of my property, actually where the water is running under 22 at this moment, back 20 years ago, the water never made it to that culvert. When the water started coming into my field and it built up to a certain height, it started actually having to run uphill to get through a culvert into my woods where I had built. And that completely flooded my property. And then it ran off my property down into that box culvert and flooded the homes down below me. So we dug this ditch, we have a permit, I paid for the permit to reroute this water so we could control it. The other way, there was no way of controlling it. So this, the way it is right now, it saved those homes down there. But people have to understand, when I bought this property, and I owned it before I even did any building on it, for a good 5, 6, 7 years, there was never a bit of water on it. This water went underground about a half mile before it ever hit my property. So, Mr. Morton, I know is there at the meeting. I would love for him to stop by and show me how this water went before this ditch was dug to relieve the water situation I had.
I'll be there as soon as the meeting's over.
Okay.
I feel sorry for him.
Who paid for the ditch?
Yeah, but who paid for that? He said he paid for a permit. Who granted him a permit to dig that and change the way the water routes?
There's a permit.
The water was going that way no matter what. It was going around the other side of my house. So what you see now is no different than what's happening prior to that.
When did you buy that property, sir? My name is Joyce.
Well, I don't know the exact date. In the early 80s, 82, 83.
When did you build?
Yeah.
When did I build?
Yes.
About 90, 91, I guess it was.
Who paid for the ditch?
Pardon?
Who paid for the ditch?
Oh, I can't hear.
You dug the ditch, right?
I dug the ditch, yeah.
Yeah.
Right here. He rerouted that water.
Well, okay, the county to extend the creek down the edge of the road in a straight line.
Say it again.
Mother Nature and everything else that they'll tell you about.
Say it again.
To okay the channeling of that stream along the county road so that it flows like in a storm sewer instead of going out into the field and being evaporated and going into the groundwater.
Who put it under Schomberg Road from the east side to go over? There's a culvert from the east side of Schomberg.
All the way from your parents, that's all been channeled and ditched.
Yeah, we have people talking in the room, Bruce. But anyway, Bruce, you have any other comments to add or?
No, the water was going to that culvert no matter what way. It went around my house.
Right.
What, can you ask me what year you started having the flooding?
Yeah, the water,
Yeah, what?
well, the ditch got dug in like '05.
Okay, and actually what year he,
And the water, flooding before that, Bruce?
Well, the water before that was during the drain commissioner prior, whatever year that'd be.
so when did the?
Well, there was 20,
It was late.
yeah, I'm 20 years in, so it'd be 22, 23 years ago is when it started flooding. I mean, serious flooding,
Okay, and when was the creek rerouted?
'05.
So what I still don't understand is why all of us have to pay. And it's a terrible thing what's happened to you. But why do we all have to pay? The people that bought that home down to the big long bridge, why do we have to pay for that?
we're all having to pay for
I
that.
think we've covered the whole process of the drain commission and how a drainage district starts, and we've covered that. So if there's a new question, Bruce, are you good, or do you want to hang on, or what do you want to do?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks for calling. Thanks.
Okay, so
A new question, is there a new question? We're ready to wrap this up.
what year was Mr. Muskie given the permit to reroute the trench when it became? a
05 was when he dug that and had a permit for it.
So the same year that you rerouted the creek,
Say it again?
the same year that you rerouted the creek, was the year he started having the problem, had to get the permit?
No, the problem started, as he explained, let's see, about 8 or 9 years before he rerouted that water.
Who put the culvert in from the east side of Schomberg?
County Road Commission did the cross culvert.
Okay, all here.
Any new questions?
Yeah, Glenn LaCrosse, I'm a absentee owner of property in the district. My address is 5536 Chanelski Road in Cedar. I guess I'd like to make a couple of points, this area we're talking about is very gravelly. The county has a gravel pit, we all know that, and a quite large one on the property or in the district. If you go over to the French Road, there's an underground stream there about from the Schomberg silos down to the Coterier farm, is where it would pop back up.
Yeah.
So, we do have underground streams in the general area, I guess. This seemed to be a working underground stream for quite a while, but now it's stopped. The ponding area that you're talking about, Steve, is that north of Schomberg or south?
North.
Westy property.
North.
North.
Yeah, Bruce and Sarah own both sides of the street there.
Okay, both sides.
Yeah,
of
so
Schomberg.
the pond started to develop on the north side up against 22.
Right.
And it got to be the point where the water, the culvert tips this way to drain into that field, but there was so much water in the field that the water ran backwards up that culvert and flooded his all property. Went across it, hit the cross culvert and flooded the people down below. The flooding of the people down below was right along the whole time. The water went around his house. His whole property was flooded. So County Road went ahead and did the cross culvert, got a permit to do that little trench so that he could shunt the water one to the other, save his drain field. So for 15 years, he's been up losing sleep at night, shunting water one way or the other, one way or the other, one way or the other. The water's there not because of him, the water's there because it's there. And he did the app, and he did the petition, and it made a drainage district, and it's not democratic. It's for the little guy that's getting flooded. And that's what it is, it's by law. It's a law. And once it starts, I have to follow the law. That's all I'm doing.
Would a solution, you talked about the conservation district.
The conservancy?
Conservation easement.
The conservancy.
Yeah, but it's a conservation easement.
I think that's the terminology. It's through the conservancy. It's probably called conservation easement.
Okay. There's several pieces in the area around this that have gotten conservation or have sold conservation easements for 30 years. Would a solution be, I think it's the Clark boys that own property.
They sold that piece without, somebody said there was a survey.
Is that right?
Well, let's
Seems to
let's do questions and answers without talking in between, okay? Go ahead, Glenn.
Seems to me that maybe a flooding area, you know, I looked into a conservation easement a little bit, and they like a shallow ponding. They paid a lot of money to get 4 or 5 farms around me, in that program. It seems to me that would be a pretty simple way to solve this problem. Yeah, I think if you took a large area like that, 10 or 15 acres ponding, you certainly would find some gravel that would probably take that water.
Well, you know, we're quite a ways along this route. I can talk to you more about that if you want to call. I think we'll take one more if there's a new question, and then we'll wrap things up. Get in touch with me, call, email. I know there's a FOIA coming, maybe a couple, and we'll get you the mapping. It's basically the same map we have. I'm gonna have to generate the LiDAR that Brian is talking about. We'll get that going. So it's basically a drainage district based around a watershed area. So I guess that's it. One more, right here.
With infrastructure, and can't you get something, monies toward this, to maybe purchase that and get their home and get this all taken care of, like a flooding area? And, I mean, there's money out there now.
I guess that if you want
There's a
to,
lot of money coming to the state.
Which money are you referring to?
Well, there's a lot of money for infrastructure.
If you're talking about the 4.2 million that everyone is discussing,
Yeah,
we are waiting for federal and state guidelines in order to know how to disperse that. But they haven't come up with anything.
okay.
Yeah.
That could be something to look at.
Townships and villages have also been notified of reports.
Okay.
So it's not just the county.
yeah, appreciate you all coming. Thanks for the comments. If you have more, you know, get in touch with me. My phone number's out there, email's out there. Thank you very much. I think we're gonna wrap this up now.
It won't make any difference anyway, you're gonna go through with this project one way or the other. I've seen that from the first meeting.
All right, that's it.